Okay, this is Lord Thaddeus Cray. You guys already know me for the most part as West Vic on the Dogman Cams Facebook group. I'm going to go ahead and make this pretty straightforward. Normally I would do this on Sundays, but unfortunately I got family business going on, so the weekend's kind of booked over. This time I'm going to be doing something a little early for this week, so try and bear with me here. What I'm going to be talking about today is, the Bigfoot. It is a very interesting cryptid. I remember being really fascinated by him when I was a kid, especially. Of course, I saw Harry and the Hendersons, I saw the Patterson film, and of course, a lot of people claim that's a hoax, but as I've gotten older, I really started seeing otherwise. Just paying attention to different videos and common sense things, really, that you can't really do. Suitmation is a difficult thing. And to be honest, the way, let's leave it this. The Patterson Gimlin film, if that was a costume, that would have to be one of the best I've seen. And you can kind of pull that look off now. I'll give you a couple of examples, of course. When it comes to the suitmation and costumes and stuff. A good example would maybe be the first Doom that came out. Of course, the movie was cheesy as hell, but I loved the effects and the monsters. And the fact is, even then, there's flaws. You can tell. That's one of the reasons people can love going for CGI now. But, while I'm not a big fan of it, I can understand why they do. Unfortunately, it tends to take the realism out of things. But I'm getting off topic. Moving on from that. The fact is, when it comes to that kind of thing, it's hard to fake. It's very hard to fake. So I believe fairly firmly that, I could be wrong, that film, the Patterson Gimlin film the footage is quite legitimate. Just leave it at that. On the other end, of course, you're probably wanting to hear some theories I have. I'm no expert on it. I've talked with people, and some claim that, these could have come from before the flood, Noah's flood, and they survived, the deluge and all that good jazz, and pretty much they've survived and developed since that time. I'm not sure what they are. I'm not even going to try to guess. My own theories are, I think that they are definitely something that is not a mere ape, I can tell you that much. But also at the same time, I'm not a fan of the theory of evolution. I have pretty strong faith. Those who know me know this. However, God does use change. That's, it's evident. Even with people, we're born, you have people now that are being born without, I think it's appendixes, gallbladders, or something along them lines. They're being born without certain things because it's no longer needed in our society. Certain elephants are being born without, tusks because that keeps them from being hunted for their ivories. Just different things like that. You really kind of have to pay attention. And of course, I believe it happened. Another example is with reptiles. You have cane toads that have infested Australia for years now. Snakes eat them, they die because they're poisonous. You have many snakes now that are being hatched that avoid them. They just instinctively somehow know. And the thing is, that's like a genetic memory thing, I believe. So my point is that it's very well proven that change happens within different species of animal or primate, whatever. I'm not saying we come from monkeys either, so don't even go there. My point is that it's a possibility that maybe Neanderthal, other types of cave-dwelling beings, just kind of branched off on their own. Obviously, it's known that we came from the Cro-Magnon, but you also have to understand about this. Back then, those boys were bigger than we are now, in many cases. Part of that was diet. Hunter-gatherer type society. You didn't, of course, when people started settling down and farming, human beings shrunk because they didn't get the same nourishment from meat and protein, which promotes growth, that we originally did. Now, don't get me wrong, it helped society in some ways, but at the same time, it didn't help our bodies too much. Now, of course, as we've advanced, we're eating more meat, more, unfortunately, a lot of processed garbage, but I think you understand where I'm going with this. And of course, you have some people that have always been naturally, big and massive. Look in Africa. You have folks that are like the norm, around 7 foot tall. I mean, it's just my point is there's such a divergence in human beings. To me, it would only be natural that maybe beings like Neanderthal or other types of hominoids that didn't split off towards our direction, they sort of changed in another way. They evolved in their own way. Maybe becoming larger. Uh, Definitely not dumber. I think obviously much smarter. In some ways, I think these things are smarter than us. Okay? People claim that there's supernatural things surrounding them. I'm thinking it ain't necessarily the case the way you would think. It's very possible, yes, there's definitely what we might call even demonic activity around them. I don't know. The fact is, you have to understand there's also tales all over the world of these things. You have the Alma in Russia. You have a creature, I think, called the Yaren or something like that in China. Basically like a beast man. That may be something else entirely, but I mean, I think you understand where I'm going with this. I think you have the Yowie, or maybe I think it's the Yowie in Australia. The Aboriginals would talk about that. Of course, you have Sasquatch here in the States and other names for it. You have wood boogers here in Texas. I mean, the point is, these creatures, there's so many of them. Of course, we already know about there's been a lot of stories lately about the Gugwi and the Janoskwa up north. I mean, my point is, I believe that these creatures are, just to put it mildly, how can I say this right? I believe very firmly that they are simply beings that have evolved in a different way. I do not believe that we are the only intelligent primate on this planet. That's my point. And also, you cannot deny the genetic similarities that we have to even chimpanzees and gorillas. I mean, believe me, and I'm telling you right now, I reiterate, I do not believe we came from them. My point is that there's something going on there. God, in his amazing knowledge and power, nothing goes on without his say so. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not so arrogant as to know that I have any answers, much less even close to a few. I'm just putting things out there, My goal is to hear what people have to say and make sure that, there's more of an understanding of the truth, whatever it may be. I don't hide that. Also, there's a gentleman you might want to look up if you get a chance. He's deceased. Cancer got him a few years ago. But I had the honor of listening to many of his videos. I would love to meet this man in person. His name was Lloyd Pye. His last name was spelled Pye, I think. He had some very fascinating theories on the hominoids. Not me personally, again, because of my faith. I don't necessarily agree with them. But in the end, that's between him and God. I'm not going to judge nobody, especially if they have valid theories. The goal is to keep an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out of your skull, if you get my drift. So, if you get a chance to look that man up, he definitely has some very fascinating theories about the hominids. And possibly why they went into hiding. I personally believe that he was right on that. We drove their butts into hiding. Just like it's pretty well known that Cro-Magnon fought with Neanderthal, probably over territory, and God knows what else. And you also got to understand, there's stories, Native American stories, and others about, these things kidnapping women, sometimes kidnapping men, for breeding stock, whatever, maybe even food. I'm not saying they're completely behind the 411 stuff, but I do know about the legends of the Janoskwa. Those things are known to eat people. And of course, Googly are called face eaters for a reason. That's another thing. I believe that these creatures have evolved or developed maybe mental abilities that are beyond our understanding. And again, they are connected to fallen beings. Who knows? My point is, us human beings are known to be. We have, my point is, you have the old saying, made a deal with the devil. Think for yourself on that one. So you got to think on this. So I believe firmly that many of these creatures may have They didn't just gain mental, but they gain physical attributes in order to survive and deal in the environment in which they are part of. You never know. And also, I believe firmly that there are beings that impersonate creatures, make you think that you're seeing something when it may not be what you're thinking. Always question what you see. My uncle told me that. Basically believe 30% of what you hear, 50% of what you see. And that's something I kind of learned to live by. He had his issues, but he was a wise man. The fact is, other than that, I do believe that these creatures exist, obviously, or else I wouldn't be doing this. And I do believe that they are very much more numerous than we think. Do I believe the government has been tinkering with them? Well, it's the government. Think on that for yourself. I'm not implicating nothing. I'm just saying human beings are being human. Leave it at that. So again, it's just a simple thing. These creatures are very much adapted to their environment, maybe even their spiritual environment. Who knows? You hear reports of these things, just like vanishing in front of the eye. Maybe they have some kind of mental abilities. Who knows? It's obviously a physical, and they want, for the most part, to be left alone. I also think these creatures are curious. And of course, you have good and bad in everything. It's really just that simple. I really don't think these things are too different when it comes to nature than people. Except, they're just different. Creatures like this, we try to put them in a box. We try to make them like human beings. You can't do that. And I'm just going to say something straight out. And people, I think, need to listen to me on this. Those of you who are wanting an experience, I respect that. I'm not the most brave of souls. I wouldn't even try it without someone who knew what the hell they were doing. Number one. Number two, you have to understand. People don't understand this. They don't think. I was on the Sean Graham show, and I think it was Vault that was saying this. The gentleman said, point blank, would you go around messing with a bear? Of course not. It would rip you apart and possibly eat you unless you had a rifle or something. Now, of course, also you got to think about this. Dogman, Bigfoot, of course they're not going to tangle with something like that if they can avoid it because they could be hurt. But most likely, they could take it head on and rip it apart. Just, that's it. No more bear. Think on that. Would you, obviously wouldn't fool the bear. Why fool something that could basically rip a bear limb from limb without respect? That's my point. People need to show these creatures respect. I've had supernatural encounters, many. Those who know me know this. But even then, I show respect. It's all about that, man. I just kind of wanted to feel like I should put that in there. It's not a lecture, it's just some very sound advice, I think. Don't be foolish when you're going out there doing these things. And that's pretty much what I think about the Bigfoot. You guys be safe. And as always, if you need to talk with someone or you want to be on Chasing the Truth with Sean Graham or the Dogman Cam Show with John Bell, hit me up. I talk to these guys on a regular basis. Hit me up at wesvic@dogmancams.com. Feel free to comment. Also, feel free to, inbox me, Wesvic, in the Dogman Cams Facebook group. Be blessed. Be safe.